What better way to start than with a professorial story? Well, one day there was a prof who looked out at the class and he wanted to have an impact with a demo. So he walked over to the side of the lecture hall and picked up a bottle with a live wriggling worm in it. And he poured in a little bit of alcohol. The worm died. Went over, picked up another jar with yet another live worm in it and poured in a little bit of chocolate liqueur. The worm died. Did it a third time, this time pouring in a bit of tobacco ashes. Once again, the worm died. Looked out at the student and says, "What do you guys make of that?" One inventive student in the back started to wave his hands and he said, "Sir, I know if you drink, smoke, and eat chocolate, you don't have to worry about worms." Well, of course, there was laughter in the class because the student had made the right observation, but he had come to the wrong conclusion. Science is all about making observations and coming to conclusions, and that will be one of the themes in this course. It indeed has been one of the motivating features for the establishment of our Office for Science and Society here at McGill University. It's a rather unique undertaking. The university made the decision about 14 years ago that we have a responsibility to the public. And when our students graduate and pass through the beautiful Roddick gates onto Sherbrooke Street here in Montreal, they still should have access to good information. And that is really what we try to provide in a totally unbiased fashion because we receive no funding from any sort of vested interest. And if there isn't a focal point where students, the public, can ask questions and have them be answered in an unbiased fashion, then they end up listening to whoever is standing on top of the soapbox yelling the loudest. And unfortunately, those tend to be the quacks. So our mandate here really is to try to demystify science, to make sure that people are up to date on what happens in the world of science. We hopefully foster critical thinking and separate sense from nonsense. And unfortunately, there is a lot of nonsense out there. You can go into health food stores and find supplements that will cure any disease known to mankind. If you happen to suffer from blocked arteries, well, perhaps apple cider vinegar can clean up those blockages, at least according to some of the literature that will be provided on the web and in those health food stores. And indeed, there are people who are worried about their arteries being clogged up. Why? Because they may have indulged in the triple bypass burger. Well, that was invented in Arizona at the Heart Attack Grill, which mercifully has closed down since that time in Arizona, but they moved over to Las Vegas. Where else? The city of excesses. And there in Las Vegas, they've added a new item to the menu, and that, believe it or not, is the quadruple bypass burger, which comes in at a stunning 9,980 calories. Well, that kind of portrays the excesses that are out there. Now, of course, the Heart Attack Grill is a sort of a living cartoon, but we know that there's tremendous overindulgence in food in North America. And of course, there's also confusion of what we should eat and what we should not eat. One day it's butter that's killing us, the next day it's margarine. And it all adds up to a lot of confusion. There's a tremendous amount of information, without doubt. I mean, this is really the information age. And we have a problem if we have too little information, but we also have a problem if we have too much information, because then it just becomes overwhelming and very, very confusing. Well, what we're going to try to do in this course is to really take out the confusion by just giving you the right amount of information. And we'll have a little bit of whimsy thrown in here because, as you know, sugar makes the medicine go down. So if we can have a little fun along the way, without, of course, trivializing the science, I think we'll all have a very good time. Remember when we used to sit down to dinner and the only thing that mattered was what it tasted like? If it tasted good, we ate it. That's all that mattered. These days, things are different. We analyze, we criticize, we want to know what's in our food. Does it have nitrites? What is the vitamin content? What minerals are present? Indeed, sitting down to dinner has become a clinical experience We want to know about trans fats. We want to know about cholesterol. And of course, we want to know about calorie content. It's not an unreasonable request, because the fact is that we are what we eat. That isn't just an old adage. That is a statement of scientific fact. Think about it for a moment. Food is the only raw material that ever goes into our body. So of course, our flesh, our bones, our brains must be built of whatever we put into our mouth. In truth, we are nothing but a large bag of chemicals. Now, of course, people don't like to hear that because, unfortunately, the word chemical has become synonymous with poison, toxin. People think that chemicals are substances in flasks that should be locked up in laboratories. Well, the world, of course, is made up of chemicals. There are some 60 million known chemicals registered by chemical abstracts, of which about 100,000 are man-made or synthetic. Most of the chemicals to which we are exposed are perfectly natural. And we will emphasize throughout this course that something that is natural does not necessarily equate to safe, and synthetic certainly does not equal to danger. It's all a question of what we know about the substance, not its origin. Whether or not a molecule was made by Mother Nature in a bush or by a chemist in a lab is irrelevant. What matters is what we know about it. And how do we know? Because we read. We are what we read, as well as what we eat. Well, you may think, no, we watch TV or listen to the radio. True enough, but whatever you hear there originally appeared somewhere as a written word. Researchers carry out their work, they publish a paper, and then that's usually interpreted for the public by the media. So virtually every day we are bombarded by some novel information. Never know what it's going to be. One day may turn out that poutine is the new devil. Perhaps not all of you are familiar with poutine. It is this Quebec delicacy made of French fries that are fried in fat, especially enriched in trans fat, with cheese curds laden with cholesterol, and dripping over it is some gravy of unknown etiology. So it isn't surprising that it isn't particularly good for us. Why? Because it tastes good. And that's kind of a rule of thumb, unfortunately. If something really tastes good, you don't want to have too much of it. If you don't like it, you can eat as much as you want. So yes, we have virtually every day some new toxin du jour, or toxin of the day.